So, welcome to the fifth lesson in this series. Today we're going to talk about a little bit about how to play fast, and I've chosen the hardest guitar to play fast on for today's lesson. And this is of course the nylon string acoustic. First of all, I recommend that you make it as easy for yourself as possible, and this is a flamenco type of body with some lighter woods than the classical guitars, but classical guitars in general are set up with a very high action because there's a focus on precision and having notes that really ring out clearly with no just noises in the background. And so that's okay, and that's wonderful for classical players, but in flamenco and in neoclassical metal, in melodic rock, we want an instrument that's easier to play, because having every single note ring out in the most optimal way is not our focus here. It might be, but in general, that's a focus of classical music, mostly. So, the first thing you do when you buy a nylon string instrument is tell the one who sells it to you that you want the action lowered to flamenco style playing, and or somewhere in between those two. If you want to make it easy on yourself, just go for the flamenco style, because that's as close as you can get to the frets. And but if you don't like the sound of fret buzzing or anything like that, then you might just want to go for a midway just between classical and flamenco setting. So that's really important. Trying to play fast stuff on a classical guitar that's set up with a classical action is a very hard task. But you can make it even easier on yourself if you're playing an electric like this one. If you add some compression and limiter to the sound. I haven't done that here because I don't like the sound of it, but you might. So if you lower the action and you add some compressor / limiter to the sound, you can, every time you play a very loud note and you pick hard, then it will turn down the volume of that note. Every time you play a low note, like doing hammer-ons and pull-offs, which is really not as effective as on an electric guitar, when you do hammer-ons and pull-offs, it will turn up the volume of those notes. But because it cannot predict what you're going to play, it's going to turn those high notes down just a millisecond after you've hit the note. And that means that you get that high note first, a bit of that high note, and it will seem like a pop or a and I just don't like the sound of that. It sounds something like when you slap the string against the fretboard, because that's what happens there. And so, but you might want to use a little of that. It's a good standard to try and see if you can do your alternate picking licks on an acoustic. But you also want to make it easy on yourself so that you have a nice playing experience, of course. But let's look at what we can do on this instrument, because learning to play fast is not just practice, practice, practice. If you use the right methods, then you can get there much faster than if you're just banging your head against it. And I know what I'm talking about, because I spent the first 2 years trying to bang my head against this challenge and just going, let me see if I can just do it. And then I just used brute force and a lot of repetitions, and I didn't get very far. And a lot of students that I've had the exact same experience. It's like it's impossible. It's like it's some superhuman skill, because when you bang your head at it and just go and do a lot of repetitions and try to practice it, you find out that, geez, this must take 10 years to learn, because you're really not getting very far. But if you have the right strategies and you know they work, then things really take off for you. And so I'm going to give you a bit of that today. But first, let's look at, specifically on the acoustic, how we can play even faster. So alternate picking is the king technique, or the king of techniques on an acoustic, in my world anyway. When I do alternate picking, I know that every note is going to come out clearly. When I do hammer-ons and pull-offs, I'm not very sure of whether I'm actually going to produce a group of notes that sound cool. Well, I'm using sweep picking. It's very effective. Economy picking, to some extent, is also pretty effective. Alternate picking wins in that little battle anyway, but economy picking still still has that fluency over it. So I can make runs that there are no accents on any of the notes. They just come out and like if you were pulling them all off. But today I'm going to show you how you can soften up your alternate picking licks by using pull-offs. And that's a very, very neat little technique. Because you get breaks in between your picking strokes. And getting breaks is not a little thing, because it's much easier to play 3 fast notes of alternate picking and then having a little break and then alternate picking again. And the image I give often is that if you want to jump as far as you can, you wouldn't just go standing right here and then jump, because that won't get you very far. But if you step back 10 steps and then make a run for it and then jump, then you'll jump much farther. And that's much easier to jump high and long or far when you have those steps before you jump. And so it is with alternate picking. If you have a little break of pulling off notes or hammering them on, then the whole lick will seem easier to play. And it's not a cop-out. It's not like, oh, no, I'm just using pull-offs because I can't do the lick. It's not like that, because you actually get better at alternate picking when you can do these licks with mixed techniques in them. And they give you confidence, and they give you experience of playing fast. And really, playing fast, people do that for 2 reasons. Point 1, because they want to impress their neighbors, and point 2, because they want that expressional tool. It's very hard to play flamenco without having those fast bursts of notes, and it's very hard to play melodic rock. Some genres within that genre, anyway. It's very hard to play neoclassical metal without being able to play fast. You can, of course, do it, but you're lacking an expressional tool that says, here comes the demon thrashing through the room. and this is not like, no, you're not playing with any emotion, because that is an emotion. Playing fast can really produce some aggressiveness or some whatever. And where would Italians be if they weren't allowed to play fast or to speak fast? It's an integral part of some languages that you have to go fast to express yourself sometimes. So let's look at it. Alternate picking is a great way to produce fast notes on an acoustic. Hammer-ons, if you do hammer-ons and pull-offs, then the hammer-ons are not really that effective. When I do them, I always do them after a pick stroke, and then I don't do 2 hammer-ons in a row. And if I do 2 hammer-ons in a row, I do it on the lower strings, because the lower strings are more susceptible to hammer-ons and pull-offs for that matter. But they have a sound to them that sometimes is useful, other times it's just too sloppy, just too blah, blah, blah. But they work for some purposes down here. Up here it's not the same. It's harder to do convincing. It's the volume is just not that high. So, but if you do if you use your pull-offs, because pull-offs can be as hard and as loud as pick strokes, if I do them right, if I really pull them off and pick the string with my finger, then I can do pull-offs as loud as pick strokes. And I have a little exercise for you here that will show you what I mean. So if you just, let's go to C minor instead. And you have the 7th, the 8th, and the 10th fret on the G string. So if you position your fingers like this, 7th G string, 8th with your 2nd finger, and then 4th finger, 10th fret. And you pick those notes up. You pick down, up, down. So that's the first part of the exercise. And the alternate picking part of that is just to go down, up, down, down, up, down, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And you can just practice that without the notes. So you really... and get that up to speed. So you... and then you pull the notes off again to play this little exercise. And pull them off decently so we can really hear the notes. And you do that by pressing in towards the fretboard and then pulling that note off or picking it with your fingers. That's how it feels anyway. And if you want to play this little play that little thing there, then you just end that little thing with an upstroke in the 10th fret and a downstroke in the 8th fret. And that gives you... Let me play that slowly again. I should say that in the Neoclassical Academy program, I do a lot of close-ups, so this is not the optimal way of showing this, of course, but it's very fast to have just one camera angle when I do these free videos, and that's why they are longer than most of my other free videos, is because I can just do without the editing and spend time on talking to you instead. So, that's the lick. And then you practice getting it up to speed and keeping it in time and having the right accent. So you go da da da, pull off, and then up, down. Da, da. And you might want to have a metronome in the beginning saying... I can't say... Da, da, da. So you keep it in time. And when you get that up to speed, it's actually very comfortable to play. And as soon as you have it up to speed, or it begins to feel comfortable to play, then make sure you play it every single day. Just start out, every time you pick up your guitar, you go... And... then you start messing with it. You start putting a beginning to it. So I just play 3 notes there, or I end it in a different way. And so on. You just play around with it as much as you can. And then, if you will, for the next week, for the next month, take any lick that you know already and replace some of the pick strokes in those alternate picking licks with pull-offs. You could do a lick like now let's stay in C minor. It's a very nice alternate picking lick, but let's replace the descending part of it with pull-offs. It says, well, let's take the same notes as before. It's the 7th, the 8th, and the 10th on the G string. Start with the 10th, go down to the 7th, and then play all the way up to the 10th and back again. And then you pick the first 3 notes, down, up, down. Oh, sorry, that's not the first 3 notes. You start with the 4th finger in the 10th fret, and then play that with an upstroke, then a downstroke, sorry. So downstroke in the 10th fret on the G string, upstroke in the 7th fret on the G string, and then 8th fret downstroke and upstroke in the 10th fret. And then back to the 8th, back to the 7th. That's the whole thing. If you didn't know it already. And then you go... So I'm playing this with downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, and pull off. All over again. You can also, sometimes it's easier for me, instead of doing that with an upstroke or with a downstroke, then starting with an upstroke instead. So, and then taking every lick you know, and replacing those descending notes with pull-offs. This will really give you an advantage and make you much faster, and it will make your alternate picking better because you get to focus in on small bursts of precise notes instead of having to do long alternate picking runs when you just pick up and down all the way. You want to practice those as well, of course, but my best advice to you when it comes to playing fast is to focus on those things that you can learn fast. Do legato, do tapping, do this little technique that I just showed you, where you replace the pull-offs or this descending notes with pull-offs, and do everything you can. Set up your instrument so it's easy to play fast. Do everything you can to make it as easy for you as possible, so you get to the point where you have that expressional tool fast. Because if we look at it, there are two reasons for why anyone wants to play fast, and the one is of course the fact that we want that expressional tool in our playing, but secondly we also want to impress the neighbors. And if you want to do that, if that is part of your drive, that guitar hero thing, then look at what people consider impressive. When I do alternate picking, people find that fine, but when I do stuff where I don't use my right hand, people go, oh my god, he's playing with only one hand. And that's actually easier than doing the alternate picking. And so if I start tapping again, then people go, oh, he's doing weird things to the guitar. So in general, people find easier fast stuff to be more impressive than the really hard stuff. So think about that, and then focus on getting yourself a vocabulary of fast stuff that is not that hard to play, so you can start to use it in your solo, so you can start to mix slower stuff with fast stuff and get the experience of that right now, or as soon as possible. And then you can always improve your technique, practice alternate picking, get better at those things. But if you start now and say, okay, what can I do very quickly, instead of just waiting till you have the perfect technique before you want to launch into a run, then you're not going to get the experience and you're not going to have so much fun. So that's really stupid. So when I started out getting really serious about playing guitar, alternate picking was the only thing for me. So anything else was cheating. If you was doing sweep picking, economy picking, legato, hammer-ons and pull-offs, it was all cheating except for alternate picking. And that, of course, really kept me back quite a bit until I realized that was just stupid. So I think that is the lesson for today. And in my new program, the Neoclassical Academy program, we're going to look deeply into how to learn to play fast, how to shortcut the whole process, how to do the exact and right things that will get you there as fast as possible. And that includes practice methods, that includes mental strategies, because you're going to run into all sorts of obstacles. You're going to just get discouraged and think, okay, I don't have the talent, I can't do this, because you're going to get into periods where you practice for perhaps a month intensely, and then you realize that you've just gotten worse, that it seems at least that you can't do as much as you could when you started out practicing. And what goes on in a situation like that, and how can we handle it? And is it really possible to practice getting worse? So we're going to look at all that, and I'm going to give you my new strategies for how to get there faster, because I've been working with this for quite some time now and got a lot of feedback from people who are struggling with different elements of it. So the latest updates on how to play fast and get there quicker with all these techniques, sweep picking, legato, anything. That's my words for today, and see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.